stories about fairies are still with us, of course.
There's the famous fairy from the story of Peter Pan, Tinker Bell, who can create magic with the pixie dust from her wings.
There's the fairy godmother who helps Cinderella go to the ball.
And there's the tooth fairy, who puts money under a child's pillow in exchange for baby teeth.
In Shakespeare's day, it's hard to know how many people in the audience would have believed in fairies, but everyone in Shakespeare's audience would have been familiar with fairy folklore.
According to stories at the time, the fairy kingdom was ruled over by Oberon, king of the fairies, and Titania, the queen.
Both Oberon and Titania were surrounded by a troop of lesser fairies who entertained them and did their bidding. The fairies were most active at night, when they enjoyed playing music and dancing in a circle.
Even today, in the clearings of forests, one can find what are referred to as fairy circles, circles of lush green grass. It was thought that these rings were produced by servant fairies watering them at night.
But botanists will tell you that it's a pattern made by fungus growing underground and then fruiting as a circle of mushrooms.
Fairies were supposed to have several supernatural abilities.
One was the ability to fly quickly around the world. One moment they could be causing mischief in India, and in a matter of minutes they could be dancing and singing in a forest in England.
Fairies were skilled at mimicking the sounds of animals, a skill which helped them play pranks on both animals and humans.
They could even take the form of inanimate objects, usually to play pranks on unsuspecting housewives.
One activity which occurred frequently in fairy folklore was secretly stealing an infant, leaving a fairy in its place, called a changeling.
The most famous fairy in folklore was named Robin Goodfellow, also called Puck.
He was a particularly mischievous fairy who enjoyed leading travelers astray in the dark by imitating sounds, and also interfering with housewives conducting their chores, causing trouble when they tried to churn butter or grind grain or spin thread.
But not all of the fairies' interactions with humans were mischievous in nature. They sometimes helped the people they liked, particularly in the area of romance.
They might help a young person end up with the person they've chosen and not the person picked by their parents.
Or they might help a couple of newlyweds establish a happy marriage and have many children.
When it comes to fairies and their behavior, Shakespeare had a lot of folklore to draw on.
So, keep an eye out for those details as you study the play.